Salut, bonjour la famille, bonjour les élèves, bonjour les étudiants, bonjour les parents, bonjour tout le monde. Back again for part 2 of our chapter 6 Faire videos. So we started looking at the verb faire, which is found in chapter 6 of the textbook. Part 1, we conjugated the verb faire. So we had faire. And we said that faire means to do or to make. So faire means to do or to make, and you can go back and watch the video. I'm not going to write this all down again. You can just go back and watch part 1. Je fais, tu fais, il fait, elle fait, on fait. Nous faisons, vous faites, ils font, elles font. So I make or I am making. I do or I'm doing. Je fais. You do or you are doing. You make or you're making. Tu fais. He does. He's doing. She does. She is doing. Il fait. Elle fait. And so forth. So that's the verb faire. And we looked at idiomatic expressions with the verb faire. How the French will use the verb faire in circumstances where we wouldn't be using the verb faire. So for example, the French would say, hey, fais attention. Fais attention, toi. Fais attention. And so, fais attention, if the verb faire means to do or to make, it seems like this might say make attention or do attention. But that's not how we speak in English. We use a different expression. Instead of saying make attention or do attention, we say pay attention. So those are idiomatic expressions where you can't translate the verb faire directly as to do or to make, and we talked about a bunch of those in the last video. Today, we're going to primarily look at another set of idiomatic expressions using the verb faire, all surrounded with the topic of the weather. So we're going to be using the verb faire to talk about the weather. However, something that I left off the last video that I want to get into this one first, and it's not really idiomatic, but it's just talking about using the verb faire. And so what we would say is, for example, if I want to say, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I would say, qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? What are you doing? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? And so the way we ask, what are you doing? Or even, what are you making? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Or you might even say, mais tu fais quoi? Tu fais quoi? Don't forget that this que, the que on qu'est-ce que means quoi. Right? So, quoi means what? So, qu'est-ce que tu fais? What are you doing? Tu fais quoi? You're doing what? You're making what? So, qu'est-ce que tu fais? Tu fais quoi? And then, of course, the answer would be whatever you're doing. I don't know. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Je cuisine. I'm cooking. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? What are you doing? Je chante. I'm singing. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? J'enseigne. I'm teaching. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Tu apprends. You would say j'apprends, which is I'm learning, right? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Mais j'apprends. I'm learning. Okay. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? J'écoute. I'm listening. So qu'est-ce que tu fais? What are you doing? And then the answer would be whatever it is that you happen to be doing. You would use that verb. Okay. Now, if you want to say what's he doing, what is she doing, then it wouldn't be qu'est-ce que tu fais, it'd be qu'est-ce qu'il fait. So I'm going to write that on the board. So it wouldn't be qu'est-ce que tu fais, it would be like this. So, qu'est-ce qu'il fait? But remember that because I've got my vowels that are touching, I won't say qu'est-ce qu'il fait. I would have to say qu'est-ce qu'il fait. I would do the contraction. Qu'est-ce qu'il fait? I'm going to put the camera a little bit closer. All right, so qu'est-ce qu'il fait? Qu'est-ce qu'il fait? What's he doing? Or it could be qu'est-ce qu'elle fait? What's she doing? Now, suppose you want to say, hey, man, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing for fun this evening? What are we doing for fun this weekend? What are we doing? All right? That would be like, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Qu'est-ce qu'on? Mais qu'est-ce qu'on fait? What are we going to do? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? So, qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce qu'il fait? Qu'est-ce qu'elle fait? So, what are we doing? So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about the weather. So, we're going to use some idiomatic expressions for the weather. And the reason why it's idiomatic is because in English, I would say, what's the weather like? Hey, what's the weather like today? What's the weather gonna be like this afternoon? What's the weather gonna be like next week, next Monday, whatever? What's the weather gonna be like? What's the weather like? So we would say like. But the French would say, if we translated things directly word for word, which remember you don't always do, you want to translate idea for idea. Sometimes you have to do word for word because you just need to be precise and literalistic. But most of the time in everyday translation, just regular everyday translation, you want a dynamic translation, right? We talked about that earlier this year. So we want to translate the idea. And so the idea in English is what's the weather like? In French, what they would really be saying word for word is what is the weather doing? Hey, what's the weather doing? What's it doing, the weather? And we of course, we don't ask that. If someone came to you on the street and walked up to you and said, hey man, what's the weather doing? You'd be like, you would understand kind of the sense of what that person means, but you'd be like, why are you asking it like that? We don't say it like that. We say, what's the weather like? But the French is, what's the weather doing? So because the French are talking about what's the weather doing, or what kind of weather is it making, they're going to use the verb faire. So to talk about weather in French, idiomatic expressions, they use the verb faire. And so the basic way to talk about the weather in French is to say, the question is, quel temps fait-il? Quel temps fait-il? Quel temps fait-il? Or, il fait quel temps? So I'm going to write those two on the board. Quel temps fait-il? 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 Or if instead of saying this way, I can move my quel around and keep the same thing. So I could say il fait quel temps. So a word order here is not important. Quel temps fait-il? Or il fait quel temps? What's the weather like? This means, what's the weather like? What's the weather like? Il fait quel temps fait-il? And that's asking right now, in the present, at the moment. And you notice we got some sunshine in the classroom and some clouds are passing. It's kind of changing the color of the video. So, il fait du soleil. Right now, at this very moment, the answer would be il fait du soleil. We'll get to those answers in just a second. So, quel temps fait-il? Quel temps fait-il? That's what's happening right now. However, you might say, what was the weather like last week? What was the weather like when you got married? What was the weather like on your graduation day? Or what's the weather going to be like this weekend? What's the weather going to be like for graduation next week? So I want to put those different tenses, the past tense, what was the weather like, and what's the weather going to be like, the future tense. I want to put those on the board so we can just have an idea of how to say it in the three different verb tenses. Past, present, and future, right? So, quel temps fait-il? That is present tense. I'm going to rewrite it. Quel temps fait-il? Quel temps fait-il? Quel temps? I'm going to rewrite it in just a second, but we got quel temps first. And this is temps, don't pronounce the S. Should have mentioned that a while ago. Most French words, you don't pronounce the S. So quel temps, and that's the word for weather. It can also mean time, which is a whole different discussion I don't want to get into. In this video, that word means weather. All right, it looks like the beginning of the word temperature, but it means weather. It could also mean time in other circumstances. But quel temps. Now, if I want to say quel temps, and if I want to say it in the past, what was the weather like? What was the weather like? I would say, quel temps faisait-il? Faisait. Quel temps faisait-il? Quel temps faisait-il? What was the weather like? Quel temps faisait-il? If If I want to know what the weather's like at this moment, in the present, quel temps fait-il? Quel temps fait-il? And if I want to know what the weather is going to be like tomorrow, next week, next month, what's the weather going to be like? Quel temps fera-t-il? Quel temps fera-t-il? Quel temps fera-t-il? Now I want to point something out. French people, why you do this? All right, so here you would have an A and an I that normally would hit each other. But the French don't want those two vowels to hit each other. So one thing they sometimes do is they drop a vowel and they put an apostrophe for a contraction. But here they don't. When they're doing inversion question sentence, when they invert, they switch the place, they invert the subject and the verb switch place and they invert, and they put this little T between the vowels so that the two vowels don't hit. Here we don't have to do it because that T is already right in front of the vowel. Here we don't have to because it's right in front. But here that A would hit that I if there were not a T there. And the French don't want the A to hit the I, so they stick the T in between. So we get quel temps faisait-il? Faisait-il? We're going to make the liaison. Quel temps fait-il? Quel temps fera-t-il? Past tense, quel temps faisait-il? What was the weather like? Present tense, quel temps fait-il? What is the weather like? Future tense, quel temps fera-t-il? Quel temps fera-t-il? What will the weather be like? Okay? So, those are the basic questions. Go ahead and get those copied down, and you can come back and listen to them in a minute, but now let's get some answers. So the question, quel temps faisait-il? What was the weather like? Quel temps faisait-il? I might say, quel temps faisait-il, for example, hier? What was the weather like yesterday? Quel temps faisait-il hier? Quel temps faisait-il la semaine dernière? What was the weather like last week? Quel temps fait-il aujourd'hui? What's the weather like today? What's the weather like today? Just look out the window. Quel temps faisait-il? Quel temps faisait-il? What's the weather like today? No, I don't know what I was saying. I got distracted. I got a phone call coming in on my phone. I need to decline it. Hang on. I don't know who's calling me. They got me distracted. So, quel temps faisait-il hier? What was the weather like yesterday? Quel temps fait-il aujourd'hui? I didn't put my phone on do not disturb. Knucklehead. So, what's the weather like today? Quel temps fait-il maintenant? What's the weather like right now? Or, quel temps fera-t-il demain? Quel temps fera-t-il demain? What's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Quel temps fera-t-il demain? Or maybe, quel temps fera-t-il ce weekend? What's the weather going to be like this weekend? Quel temps fera-t-il ce vendredi, ce samedi? What's the weather going to be like this Friday or this Saturday? So, quel temps? What's the weather? Faisait-il? What was it like? Fait-il? What is it like? Fera-t-il? What will it be like? And let's get the answer. So, depending on whether the question, what was the weather like, what is the weather like, or what will the weather be like, well, your answer is going to come out just a little bit different. So if you want to say, if the question was, what was the weather like, and you want to say, oh, it was sunny, it was rainy, it was windy, it was nice, it was beautiful, it was hot, it was whatever, you would say, il faisait. Il faisait. Woo! So you'd say il faisait. That is, it was whatever. It was. That's the past tense. So that would say it was. It was. Now, so remember this is idiomatic because the verb faisait doesn't really say was. That's the verb être. I am, je suis, I was, j'étais. So in French, because it's an idiomatic expression, what the French are really saying was it made or it did, and then they named the, so like it made sunny weather. It did sunny weather. So that's why they're using the verb faire and not the verb être, because it's an idiomatic expression. So il faisait, it made or it did, and then you name whatever the weather was like. But when we translate it into English, we're going to translate it as it was, because that's how we talk. We would say it was. Or you might say, instead of it was sunny weather last weekend, we might say, oh, it is sunny weather today. So it is sunny weather today. So il fait. Il fait is going to say it is, and then you name the kind of weather. It is. Once again, fait does not say is. That's the verb être. It says is. Il est. But this is talking about weather, so when you're talking about weather, just bite the bullet and say, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't translate. I know it doesn't. You just have to do it, okay? Just accept it and move on. So, il fait, and then you name the kind of weather. We'll get that in a second. Or if you want to say, what's the weather going to be like? What will it be like? You would say, il fera. Il fera. Il fera. Il fera would say, it's going to be. And then once again, or it will be. I guess we could say it will be. It shall be. Right? It will be or it's going to be. So once again, fera doesn't say to go and it doesn't say to be. So what the French are really saying is it's going to make. It will make a certain kind of weather. It will make sunny weather. It will make windy weather. It will make beautiful weather. Okay? It's going to do beautiful weather. It's going to do windy weather. But in English, we would translate it as it's going. So there are my three ways. Il faisait, it was. Il fait, it is. Il fera, it will be. So now, we have the basic questions. Quel temps fait-il? What's the weather like? Il fait. Or, quel temps fera-t-il? What will the weather be like? Il fera. So now, how do I say the actual weather in and of itself? So let's talk about some good weather. I'm going to kind of write them right here. And then you can copy them as you go and have them on a list. So here we're going to be talking about some good weather phrases. So I would say, if it was good weather, nice, sunny, beautiful weather, il fait beau. Il fait beau, or il faisait beau, or il fera beau. So il faisait beau, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous weather. Il faisait beau. Or right now outside, the weather is gorgeous. It's a little bit hot, maybe slightly humid. Still nice, good weather for the beginning of May. So il fait beau. Sun's outside with some clouds. Il fait beau à l'extérieur. It's beautiful outside. Il fera beau ce weekend. Il fera beau ce weekend. It's going to be beautiful this weekend. Really, the forecast does call for that. I saw the forecast. Nice weather coming this weekend. Il fera beau. Il fera beau. Il fera beau. So what other kind of ways can we say some good weather? So beau would be like beautiful weather. The word beau is like the word beauty, like in beautiful, it's where we get our word from. So beau means beautiful. We might say instead of beau, we might say il fait du soleil. Du soleil. Il fait du soleil means that it is sunny. It's sunny. Basically, it's saying like, il fait du soleil. It's doing some sunny weather. It's doing some sunny weather. It's making some sunny. But we would just say, it is sunny. Il faisait du soleil. La semaine dernière, il faisait du soleil. Last week, it was sunny. Il fera du soleil ce weekend. Il fera du soleil samedi. It's going to be sunny this weekend. It's going to be sunny this Saturday. All right, du soleil. Next, il fait, let me get my thing like this. Whoop. Chaud. Right, so il fait chaud. Oh, you probably know what chaud is, right? Chaud is hot. Il fait chaud, mais ça c'est chaud. Mais ça, as the Cajuns say, like, ça fait chaud. Mais ça fait chaud. Ça fait chaud. It's hot. Ça fait chaud à l'extérieur. Ça fait chaud dehors. It's hot outside. Il fait chaud. Il fait chaud. Or il faisait chaud. It was hot. Il fera chaud. It will be hot. This weekend, it's not supposed to be too hot. Il ne fera pas. Il ne fera pas. Il ne fera pas. So I can always throw that little pas. Let me get my red. I can always throw my ne and pas. Around my verb, and that would be the negation of it, right? So, il ne fait pas chaud, il ne fait pas chaud, it's not hot. Il ne fera pas chaud ce weekend, it will not be hot. So my ne pas. Now, in speaking, that's written, I got to put my ne pas. But don't forget that when you're speaking, the French drop the ne. So I wouldn't actually really say il ne fera pas chaud. I would just say il fera pas. Il fera pas. Il fera. I would drop the ne altogether in my speaking and just go straight to the pas. You know, we do this stuff all the time in English. We drop words out all the time in English, and so the French do it as well. But I can keep my pas in to say it wasn't. So, il ne fait pas chaud, it's not hot. Il fera pas chaud, it's not hot. One more bit of good weather. This could be good or bad depending on the circumstances, but sec, sec. Il fait sec. Il fait sec, and that's dry. Il fait sec. We're going to pronounce that C on sec. Il fait sec, it's dry weather. Il fera sec ce weekend. It's going to be dry weather this weekend. Il faisait sec, it was dry. La weekend passé, this past weekend, last weekend. Okay, so dry. Second, now it can be too dry, and that can be bad weather, and you have une sécheresse, which is drought. But you normally dry weather is good because we can go outside and do stuff. So we're going to call that good weather. Now I'm going to give you a whole new phrase. This one is just a phrase that does not use faire, but if I want to say it's good weather, but I don't want to use faire, I want to say it's good weather, I would say c'est un temps estival. C'est un temps estival. I would say c'est un temps estival. C'est un temps estival. C'est un temps estival would mean it's beautiful weather, the kind of weather that is for us in South Louisiana that we get in the spring, that you just want to be outside and enjoy the fresh air and the plants. Over in France, northern France especially, and in northern Europe, Belgium and the Netherlands and all that, that's going to be like in the summer for them. It's just un temps estival. It'd be like, because they have different latitudes, so their seasons are a little bit different. But for us in the springtime, and we are just about out of the time where it's great weather, but we could say like this weekend, so weekend, it's going to be un temps estival. Il sera un temps estival. Il sera un temps estival ce weekend. It will be beautiful weather this weekend. So you can either say il fait beau, it's beautiful. Il fera beau, it's beautiful. Or c'est un temps estival, means the same thing. All right, let's move on. What about bad weather? Okay, so we do sometimes get bad weather. So the general word for saying good weather is beau, il fait beau, and that's just beautiful weather, whatever that means. Wherever you live, that's beautiful for your part of the world, il fait beau. And there's a general word for saying bad weather. And so it's il fait mauvais. Il fait mauvais. Il fait mauvais, or il faisait mauvais, it was bad weather. Il fera mauvais, it will be bad weather. Il fera mauvais demain. So today it's Tuesday, May the 5th, and I've seen the weather report, and they're calling for rain to come through tonight, tomorrow. So I might say, il fera mauvais demain. Il fera, it's going to be bad weather tomorrow. Il fera, or ce soir, tonight. Ce soir. Il fera mauvais ce soir. It's going to be bad weather tonight, this evening. Il fera mauvais. So that's just the basic word for bad weather. But of course, there's all kinds of other weathers that are bad weather. This next one could be bad or good. It's kind of an in-between category, depending on the circumstances. So, il fait nuage. Nuage. Il fait nuage. Il fait nuageux, it's cloudy. So we're starting to get some clouds coming in already right now, and so lots of times clouds announce rain, right? So you don't want to see clouds sometimes. Clear blue skies is the classic sign of good weather, clear blue skies. Now, if it's really hot outside, like this past Sunday, il faisait chaud. I was outdoor mass. We had mass this past weekend for the first time in 2 months, and we were outdoors, and il faisait chaud. It was hot at 11 o'clock in the morning. But they had clouds in the sky that would blow, and when you had a cloud pass over the sun, that was good. So nuageux, cloudy, can be bad or it can be good, just depending on the circumstances. So il faisait nuageux dimanche. Il faisait nuageux. It was cloudy dimanche, Sunday. Il faisait nuageux. Il fera nuageux cet après-midi. Il fera, it will be, nuageux, cloudy, cet après-midi, this afternoon. Il fera nuageux. Some more. This one is definitely a bad weather word. Orageux. Now listen. Orage. What did that word start with? Orage. Did it start with an O? Did it start with an H? You got it. Orageux. So this is one of those silent H's in French. Most of the H's are. We're not really pronouncing aspirated H or silent H. So orageux, but it actually starts with an H. And un orage is a storm. So il fait orageux is it's storming. It is storming. Il fait orageux, it's storming. Or il fera orageux. It will be stormy. Il fera orageux ce soir. Il fera orageux ce soir. It's going to be stormy tonight. That's what the weather forecast calls for. Right now, here's some bad weather. I'm feeling it in my classroom. I don't have my air conditioner on. I got the windows open and the door open, and I probably should put the air conditioner on because right now, il fait humide. Il fait humide. Humide. What does that start with? Does it start with a U? Why would I be asking you? You see that? You see that right there? Il fait humide. Ah, you got it. Starts with an H. H-U-M-I-D-E. Il fait humide. All right, South Louisiana. Typical South Louisiana weather, baby. All right, so il fait humide. It's humid right now. Il fera humide demain. It's going to rain tonight. Tomorrow the sun's going to come out. It'll be a little humid tomorrow. Il fera humide. A little damp, a little humid, a little stickiness in the air. All right. Next. Il fait venteux. 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 Il fait venteux, and venteux could be bad or it could be good, depending on how strong it is or how hot it is or whatever. It means windy. So, il faisait venteux, it was windy. Il fait venteux, it is windy. Il fera venteux, it will be windy. Now, that could, if it's a hot day and you get a little breeze, that's good. You like that, okay? So, a little bit of a breeze. So, venteux is windy. Now, just as a side note, you see V-E-N-T, vent, right? So like we have ventilators that produce air flowing, wind. So that's where our word ventilators, it all comes from the Latin, going back to the word for wind. So venteux is windy. And, all right, so now, that's done with the il fait, but there's some more French weather expressions, but I'm going to get off of the faire. And we're going to look at some other weather expressions in French that, we got two more. I'm going to do two more French ones with faire. So, il fait chaud is it's hot. Il fait chaud, mais il fait chaud. It's hot. But what if it's not hot? What if it's cold? Il fait froid. Il fait froid. Il fait froid. Il faisait froid. It was cold. Il fait froid. It is cold. Il fera froid. It will be cold. Okay? So, froid is cold, but we're no longer going to have cold weather. But we might wake up Saturday morning, because the weather is coming, the good weather is coming, and Saturday morning it might feel frais. Frais. So, we might say Saturday morning, samedi matin, Saturday morning, il fera frais, frais, it's going to feel cool. Frais is cool. So, il faisait frais, it was cool. Il fait frais, it is cool. Il fera frais, it's going to be cool. It will be cool. All right, so samedi matin, Saturday morning, il fera frais. Merci, bon Dieu. All right. So, those are our verbs. Faire for the weather. Il faisait, it was. Il faisait du soleil, it was sunny. Il faisait beau, it was. Il fait, it is. Il fera, it's going to be. Now we're going to get to some other weather expressions. And these are not going to use faire. We're going to use some other things besides faire because we've talked about weather, being hot, being cold, being windy, being cloudy, being stormy. What I have so far I haven't said it's done what? What are some weather expressions I haven't said? Think about them. South Louisiana, rain. Oh, we haven't talked about the rain yet, right? So how do we say it's raining? It is raining. So here, it is raining. I'm going to do the past, present, future. So the raining, so it rained, it was rainy. It is raining, it's going to rain. So if I want to say, it is raining, il pleut. Don't pronounce the T. Il pleut. Il pleut. It is raining at this moment. But I might say, il pleuvait. Il pleuvait. So il faisait was it was whatever weather. Il pleuvait is it was. The AIT ending right there is telling me it's in the past. Okay, so that's the imperfect tense. Il pleuvait, it was raining. Il pleut, it is raining. And then il pleuvra, it will rain, or I'm just going to say il va pleuvoir. Il va pleuvoir. Il va, so I'm going to use my verb aller. Ce soir, oui, ce soir, pendant la nuit, ce soir, during the evening, il va pleuvoir, it's going to rain. Cet après-midi, this afternoon, peut-être, il va pleuvoir, maybe it's going to rain. Cet après-midi, peut-être il va pleuvoir. Il va pleuvoir, it's going to rain. So, il pleuvait, il pleut, il va pleuvoir. So, it rained, it was raining. It is raining. It is going to rain. Il pleuvait, il pleut, il va pleuvoir. Now, the Cajuns will say, instead of this, the Cajuns will say, ça mouille, ça mouille. Ça mouille basically means it's getting wet. Ça mouille. So the Cajuns, ça mouille, it's getting wet. Okay? So let's move on to some others. A little expression. If you want to say that it's really raining a lot, like a lot of rain, they'll have an expression that says, this is an idiomatic expression. So if we translate it directly into English, it's going to sound weird, but I'm going to write it on the board. It's going to say, il fait un temps de canard. Il fait un temps de canard. Il fait un temps de canard. Now, if I translate it directly, it is making a weather of ducks. It's making duck weather. Now, if I said that to you, like some stranger came up to me and said, excuse me, sir, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? And I'd say, it's going to make duck weather tomorrow. They'd be like, what are you talking about? So it's an idiomatic expression, right? So like when you're playing poker and everybody is got some money to put on the table, they say, put the kitty on the table. Are you talking about the cat? No. Or if we said it's raining cats and dogs, I hope you have a strong umbrella, because if it's really raining cats and dogs, that could get messy. But so it's just an idiomatic expression. So il fait un temps de canard means that it's a lot of rain. It's very, very, very wet outside, maybe even some slight flooding. That's how much rain that there is. Because ducks would be in the little puddles of water. It'd be a great time for the ducks to land, right? So we don't have too many ducks around here in South Louisiana. That's what the hunters tell me. So maybe we need some more temps de canard to get that. All right, so here's some more weather words. Just a few more. We'll put them up. So wherever there's rain, there is probably also going to be some thunder. So we're going to say il tonne, il tonne, il tonne, il tonne. It's thundering. Il y a du tonne. Oh, mais tonnerre mes chiens. That's a Cajun expression. Tonnerre mes chiens, which is like thunder my dog, which is like, I can't believe what's going on. So il tonne, and often sometimes there's lightning, right? When you get a really bad storm, lots of lightning. We had some of that a couple of weeks ago. That would be il y a un éclairci. Il y a. So il y a, there is, une éclaircie. Il y a une éclaircie. All right. Let me just clear my phone. I got another thing. So il y a une éclaircie. So there's lightning. Or we might say il y a du vent. We already talked about wind, but il y a du vent. Il y a du vent. There is some wind. I could say il fait venteux. Il fait venteux. It's windy. Il fait venteux. It's windy. Or I could say il y a du vent. There is some wind. Okay? The word vent, of course, means wind. I could say il fait orageux. Do you remember? Il fait orageux. That's stormy. Or I could say il y a de l'orage. De l'orage. Which would be there is a storm. Il y a de l'orage. There is a storm. Il fait orageux. It is stormy. Il y a de l'orage. There is a storm. Il y a is there is. So, a couple more words that we have. So, il y a de l'orage. I might say, for example, instead of saying de l'orage, so right here I'm going to do this. So I might say il y a de l'orage, there's a storm. I might say il y a une tempête. Une tempête. Une tempête is another word for a storm, and that's like our English word tempest. You may have heard there's a play by Shakespeare called The Tempest, which is about a storm that blows a ship off course and it shipwrecks. The tempest, the storm did that. Or you might have heard the expression, a tempest in a teapot. Oh, that's nothing but a tempest in a teapot. A tempest in a teapot. What does that mean? So a tempest is a storm that's strong enough to blow ships off course and shipwreck them. So that's a pretty big storm. Une tempête, a tempest. But in a teapot, a little teapot. What could that mean? A tempest in a teapot. Yeah, it's not really a big storm. You're calling it a storm, but it's not a big storm. It's like saying making a mountain out of a molehill. So if in English I said, oh, it's a tempest in a teapot, it just means you're making a big deal out of nothing, right? So il y a une tempête is there is a storm, and that's a pretty big storm. Other kind of big bad weather storm, il y a une tornade. Il y a une tornade. Tornade, can you figure out tornade before I tell you? Tornade, il y a une tornade. Tornade, yes. Tornado, a tornado, all right? And then, of course, what we get we're about to enter the season of des ouragans. Des ouragans. Il y a un ouragan. Il y a un No, I spelled that wrong. Il y a un ouragan. Not ouragan. Ouragan. Il y a un ouragan. Hurricane. Il y a un ouragan. Hurricane. All right. So, the last couple of things that we're going to do, just a very last couple of words, is stuff we don't get here in South Louisiana very often, so I'll save them for last. And of course, what do we not get? We get all this weather in South Louisiana. We get tornadoes even now. We get lightning. We get hot weather. We get dry weather. We get humid weather. We don't get freezing weather. So not very often anyway, we don't get snow. So how do I say that? Even though it doesn't happen very often, I would say il gèle. Il gèle as it's freezing. Il gèle. Can you see that? Let me see if I can move it so you can see. Because I got some glare that's going on over there. Okay, so il gèle is it is freezing and il neige. Il neige, it's snowing. Il gèle, il neige. Il gèlera, it's going to freeze. Il va geler, it's going to freeze. Il neigera, it's going to snow. Il va neiger, it's going to snow. Okay? And then, very last thing. And so we want to say, with all the weather, one important thing that we want to know about the weather is what temperature is it, right? So what's the number of degrees? This is how the French are going to pose the question. In English, we're going to say, what is the temperature? And so we might get an answer back like, it's 80. It's 80 degrees. Now, we just say it's 80. We'll just drop the degrees part right out. If somebody says, what's the temperature? We'll just say it's 80. But it's 80 what? It's 80 degrees. So what the French actually say is they keep the word degrees in their phrase. They don't drop the word degrees out. So they would say, for example, it is how many degrees? That's really what they're asking. We say, what's the temperature? They say, there are how many degrees? How many degrees are there? And so it'd be il y a combien de degrés? Il y a combien de degrés? So il y a, remember il y a, this chapter 4 we got il y a. Il y a is there is, or it could mean there are. Combien was chapter 3, which means how many or how much. So il y a combien, there are how many degrees. Now, once again, if I'm going to translate this into English, I'm going to use a dynamic translation. I really would never go up to someone, Miss Shiver's across the hall from me right now, and suppose I walk across the hall and I say, hey, Miss Shiver, how many degrees are there? And she'd be like, well, you can get a bachelor's degree, you get a master's degree, you can get a PhD. You know, she'd be like thinking degrees, like, because that's would be weird for me to say how many degrees are there when I want to know the temperature. So if I'm translating this sentence into English, use a dynamic translation. Make it say, what's the temperature? Even though none of this says what's the temperature, none of these words directly say what is the temperature, that's how we're going to translate on a dynamic translation. But just so you know what's happening in the mind of the French, they're saying, how many degrees are there? So in the answer to how many degrees are there, your answer would be, there are blank degrees. How many degrees are there today? There are blank degrees today. So, il y a blank degrés. Whatever the number is. And don't forget that the French and the Belgians and the Spanish and the Germans and all across Europe, they're not using Fahrenheit, right? They're using the Celsius degrees. And so on a day like today, it's probably somewhere around 25. Right now, as I'm speaking, I don't know if this is 100% accurate. It's in the ballpark, somewhere around 25 degrees. You know, outside, for real, in the Fahrenheit over here, we'd probably say it's around 80 degrees or something like that. But they use the Celsius system, so it'd be 25 degrees. But if I wanted to say there's 80, you know, what's the temperature? It's 80 degrees. I would say 80. Huh? 80. Or if we were in Switzerland, we'd say 80. I believe they say that in Switzerland. It's either there or in Quebec, one of those two places. So, il y a 80 degrés. Il y a 25 degrés. All right. So, we've done it. This is the end of part 2. There is no assignment associated with this end of part 2, except if you didn't do the assignment at the end of part 1. So if you didn't do the assignment at the end of part 1, I'm going to put the link at the bottom of the description of this video, and you can click on that link, and it'll take you to the page where you can do the assignment that was for part 1, and go ahead and do it, and you know, just hopefully you did well. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments section, and I'll be back again with another video in another 3 or 4 days. We're almost at the end of the school year, and I'll be able to stop making these videos, and you'll be able to stop. Well, you haven't even started watching them, so it doesn't do me any good to say stop. I'm basically talking to myself, for real. But that's okay. I don't mind. We'll see each other next year, probably. You know, I don't know if they start school in August or not. We're hoping that we can. So, un de ces jours, one of these days. À plus tard. See you later. Au revoir.